Welcome back to the Valor Flight Crew podcast, hosted by Echo and brought to you by Vertical Helicasts and Vertical Valor magazine. Today's episode is different. It's personal, it's honest, and it's one that so many in our community need to hear.
And so we got up to leave, and there was just something in my head that was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. It's not worth it. It's not worth sitting in this 24 hours a day or 18 hours a day when I'm awake. So I got in my car, basically made the decision I was going to end my life that night. It's interesting looking back, like I had enough presence of mind that instead of driving home, I drove to a parking lot near my house because I have a dog and I was like, I don't want him to see me like that, So it's funny the little bits where I'm like, I was reasoning with myself, like to make that conscious decision, So it's just crazy to me how I ended up that low.
Today we sit down for a two-part episode with Kacee Griffin, a fellow flight nurse, as she shares her deeply courageous story about battling PTSD, facing suicidal thoughts, and navigating the difficult road towards healing. This is a conversation about the realities that often go unspoken in public safety aviation, the emotional weight we carry long after the rotors stop turning. We talk about the power of therapy, the role of medication, the importance of support systems, and what it really looks like to ask for help when you're the one everyone else counts on. This episode is about resilience, vulnerability, and a reminder that strength sometimes means saying, I'm not okay. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by this job, by life, or by the expectations we place on ourselves, you are not alone. And this conversation is for you. So strap in and lower those visors as you join us for a heartfelt and important discussion that we hope brings light to a topic our industry can no longer afford to keep in the shadows. Thank you to our sponsors, Airbus, Metro Aviation, and Precision Aviation Group.
Welcome to the Valor Flight Crew podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts and Vertical Valor magazine. Produced in partnership with Echo, Every Coast Helicopter Operations, the Valor Flight Crew podcast promotes the personnel and life-saving equipment behind helicopter air ambulance services. Join hosts Mike Fideli and Blake Schreider for in-depth interviews and expert insights from air medical personnel, pilots, communication specialists, and maintenance crews who play critical roles in airborne emergency response.
We get so bogged down in our job, our everyday to day life, all these other things, right? And, like we kind of mentioned earlier, that pride, and you're like, no, I think I'm okay. But then here you are doing the right things, right? Hey, I'm going to go out with my friend. I'm going to do the right things. So you're still trying, you're still making those steps to do it. And then it's, and there's no way to put an explanation on it unless you've experienced it. If people just don't understand how you go from 100 to 0 and then a 0 to 100 for no rhyme or reason. It just happens because you get a mental thought process that just becomes habitual, or whatever that process is. And getting to that point where you're like, no, this is it. And then when you were talking about like how, and I've heard this from other people that have said the same thing, you start rationalizing the irrational things that you're going to do. Like you said, like, nah, man, this truck's pretty new. I think someone might want to use it, or I don't want my dog to see me. I'm like, no, and that's when, it's like serious, and if you ever hear somebody out loud saying that, like that is, we've got to intervene at some point, somehow, some way, because that is a true telltale sign of somebody really heading that direction without question. So I echo what Mike said 100%. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that, because it's such a lesson for all of us to, you be the best you can. I pride myself on, I think I'm a 3 a.m. friend to a good amount of people, probably because I just don't sleep and I'm going to be up. So
fair.
But like, I want to be that for somebody, because I know I have those people for me. And I know Mike's one of them, 1,000%.
Yeah.
So,
For sure.
I'm just grateful that you got the professional help. And I think that the more that we can be open and talk about it, just like you are, Kacee, and the more awareness, like there's no shame in getting help at
None at
all.
all.
No.
There should be no stigma attached to it.
No. Well, and help looks differently for everybody. Like
Mm-hmm.
what
Yeah,
works for me might not
absolutely.
work for you guys or the next
Right.
person, or, it's just like you kind of got to figure out what works for you. And that's what I did. I mean, it was a lot of like, let me try this. Okay. Oh, that medicine didn't work. Like, let me try, like it's just, but you have to
Oh,
be, for me, I knew I knew that if I didn't put in the work, like I can show up to therapy all day long and I can go 5
mm-hmm.
days a week. But if I don't do the work
Yep.
that I need to do, it doesn't matter that I'm in those
Yeah.
sessions or not. And so
Yeah.
like I took it seriously
You have to.
because I love life and I want to be here. And like we all deserve to be here, but yeah, like it looks different for everybody. And I think that's the hard part. You're already so down. It's like, how do I sit here and now wade through this very tough process and like try to start some sense of normalcy? Because that was a big thing for me was,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm gonna do therapy. Like my routine was completely shattered. So when everything happened, and it's like I'm trying to figure out what my new normal is, and now I'm having to add therapy into it and like medicine and all this stuff. And I'm sorry if you hear a dog in the background. That's
No, it's okay.
I live in an apartment.
No, that's
I
cool.
thought
Yeah,
it was Blake's dog.
I'm in an apartment complex, so that's my neighbor's dog. Her name's Cody. She's very cute. And there goes my dog.
Oh.
You're fine. Lay down. So, but yeah, it's like, how do you find the energy when you have
Yeah.
none to now figure out this solution for yourself?
Right. And
Even with help.
there's so many different ways you can go, right? Like
Right.
there's the counseling, there's the peer support route, you can certainly do some things on your own, whether that be, exercise and making sure you're trying to get enough sleep and doing some of the things that you always, brought you joy before. And there's all of these different avenues you can go, but even within each of those silos, so even within the therapy side of things, just to find the right therapist to go to, just to find the right kind of support that you need is very overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, what was that experience like for you as far as being able to find the right counselor and being able to have that conversation and that discussion with them?
So I learned in my experience, therapy is like shoes. You have to keep trying until one fits.
Absolutely.
I went through our EAP program at my place. It was through like the healthcare system. I'm a hospital-based program, so the clinicians were employed by the hospital. Our maintainers and pilots are employed by the vendor. So I had access to our EAP program within the healthcare system that I worked for. And it was great. You got like 5 or 6 free sessions, I think, and I did 2 or 3. And the guy that I worked with was great, but it was one of those, and I know like I remember having this conversation a lot at Echo of, nobody really understands what we do until you do it. So I don't want to spend 30 minutes of my 45-minute session
Yep.
explaining what I do for a living
Right.
to somebody that's never done it. Right. So
Correct.
I realized, hey, this might not be for me. So I was like trying to find the resources one day at work. I had obviously after that situation, took off a little bit more time, utilized my FMLA, and then was starting the EAP stuff, went back to work. While I was at work, I was like searching through the resources, trying to find somebody that, took our insurance. And on the back of my insurance card, was like a mental health website. So I clicked on or put it in the browser, and it basically listed all the providers, and you could like narrow it down radius wise based on your zip code that took our insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I did like within a 10-mile radius, because I, again, still no energy, not wanting to do a whole lot, was like, I don't want to drive 30 minutes to go see a therapist. So I ended up driving, I think 12-ish minutes, and saw somebody in the next town over. I lived in a small town at the time. And so, but I found her. It took me not to her, but to the firm, I guess, that she worked for, the practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I read through all the different bios of all the different therapists, and hers just stuck out to me. She specialized in like LGBTQ issues, worked a lot with divorce, and like divorced kids, which my parents got divorced when I was really young. And so, of course, we all got childhood trauma. There it is. So it's like, there's going to be more than just my own issues that come out in this. It's going to be stuff I ain't dealt with in years.
Or ever.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, yeah, she worked, she had a lot of experience with, like healthcare providers and EMS and first responders. So it just kind of like checked a lot of my boxes. And even though she didn't do the job that I did to actually talk to somebody that's worked with first responders and, deals with PTSD, things like that, it was, I was like, let me try this one. And within the first 5 minutes of sitting down talking to her, it felt right. And so that's just kind of where that started with therapy. So yeah, it was.
And I think you bring up such a really good point, like bringing all of that together. So, talking about therapy and it being like buying a pair of shoes, you have to keep trying them on until you find the one that fits. In a crisis situation is not when we should be trying on those shoes, though.
Correct.
Right? Like that's where you need to be able to have your go-to in that moment. And so I always encourage everyone that even on a daily or, on a monthly basis to still have a therapist to be able to have those conversations with. I look forward to talking with and checking with my therapist, twice a month or at least once a month, if not twice a month. And if nothing else, it's just a general check-in, and it keeps me in line and keeps me accountable for some of the things that I'm supposed to be working on. And I know that when I do have a crisis, like I now find myself, I can't wait till my next therapy session. We have a lot to talk about.
Oh, yes.
But I can't imagine going through and finding that person in the middle of a crisis. Like when you have no energy, when you're run down, when you don't want to do anything, you don't want to see your friends, you've tried all the things you normally try, you're down, depressed, and feel horrible. That is not the time for that.
Mm-mm.
It sucks. And I mean, so props to you for persevering through that and finding the right person and recognizing, I think back to when I first found the therapist I've been working with. Now I've been working with the same person for probably, I don't know, a good 6-8 years now. But when I was looking for a therapist to be able to sit down and have some conversations with, I went through probably, I think it was 4 or 5 different therapists for an initial session, just to find one that I felt like I could connect with and that I could have a conversation with. And it may not mean that they're in the exact same field, but at least, like you said, that they have the experiences there to be able to connect with somebody on that level. And you have to have that comfort level.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
I appreciate everything that you just said, because I feel like those are some of the key points of finding somebody that is going to help you down that path and give you the tools that you need and make that difference in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Mike, you talked about having these tools, and Kacee, when you were talking about at that moment, you were driving to the parking lot and you were like, no, this is it. I'm tired of feeling that. Like, if I can take you to like your early career as a nurse, right? So you say you've been a nurse for 10 years. You started when you were 22. Like, did you get any training like coming into this field? Like, was there anything at the onset about the things that you're going to encounter, like as a nurse, right? Like, or whatever your field is, but did you ever get anything like that from the get-go, or even in the first few years with working?
No, I mean, like I had a good group, like solid group of work friends in the ICU that I worked in. And like after my first code, I talked to, I think my first code that was actually mine. Of course, it was like 3 days after I got off of orientation by myself.
Sure. Naturally, that's when it happens. Yeah.
In the elevator, full Grey's Anatomy moment coming back from CT. And yeah. And like after that code, of course, at least for me, I was like, oh, did I mess up? Did I do something? Did I cause this? So like went to my preceptor after everything was said and done and was like, it was the next day. Because of course I happened to shift change. And so, yeah, like with that, like I had a group that I could talk to, but it was like.
It was the box check of almost like, just reach out if you need us, right?
Correct.
Like it's the proverbial, like,
yes.
We have somebody you could talk to, right? But like, I think the thing that I'm getting at more, and Mike, when we were talking about tools, like, how do we instill that? Like, that 3 a.m. person, right? Or even not even so much that, but like just the base culture that you had, like to just have the people that like when you started flying, right? And so you knew, like you were able to develop such a good culture that within that 6 years of you there, that Chris knew that what you're going through, that he knew at some point he needed to check on you. 100%, right? And we don't, there's no training for that or groundwork, but it, like, I almost want to say like there doesn't have to be a training per se, but almost like the mindset of just, hey, like we all work closely. We spend more time with our coworkers probably than our own family at times. And the one training thing could be exactly what Chris did, was just be like, hey, I love you. You got this. Just let me know if you need anything.
Yeah.
You know, and like you said, it looks different for everybody, you know, but man, if we could, I don't know if normalize is the right word, Mike, so help me out. You know, we've talked about this before, but how do we start that process from the get-go to where like it's not just the work calls, like it's the stuff that's going to happen in your personal life, right? Like obviously the work can't help with everything, but they can help you get the tools to deal with those things, right? That's why there's EAP. Like a lot of organizations that offer EAP, there's so many things, whether it's finance, whether it's a divorce, if it's through multiple different things, like addiction services, there's just access to so many things. And if we could just stop as an industry, especially in healthcare, like we are the worst. We are the worst patients. We live on like Monster, Mountain Dew, and Zins, and just getting by, right? And then it's like, I don't know why I have high blood pressure and I can't sleep, like, I don't know why.
Yeah.
But like, could we just get to the point where we could stop, like just reach out and just look out for each other a little bit?
I don't know. Maybe I'm going off base here, but I think that this is where you get an intersection of, I know what's wrong, but there's the stigma in the industry and they sit there and they butt heads all the time. Right. Like, so we're like, yeah, we're the best of the best. We pride ourselves in being able to take care of anything. We can tackle any situation and we can, run into that burning building and we can take care of that, 2-year-old in cardiac arrest, and we can take care of that ECMO patient that's crashing. And we've got all of these things, all these tools in our toolbox to be able to care for all of these other things. So when it's us, they're like, now they're fine. They got this. They can handle this. They can handle anything.
Yeah.
And
because
so
I've watched you like manage that patient.
Right. And so I think we overlook it when we see it in ourselves, when we see it in our coworkers, when we see it in some of the people that we're closest to, because we're so used to seeing those people have it all together and being able to do everything that they need to do at work and at home, and things just seem to be going great for them, that we overlook those subtle signs that maybe they do need some help. And I don't know how to change that, Blake. I'm so grateful that Chris was able to see, in you, Kacee, where you were at and reach out at the right moment. Like, tell me that's not a sign from someone.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like absolute divine intervention.
Thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, save lives, and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information.
Yeah, and he like throughout that whole process, even leading up to that night, even if it was like some days we would have little exchanges back and forth, or he would call on his way home from work if I was off work or out of work. But yeah, the universe lining that up, I don't know what that was, but I'm glad that it happened.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
for sure. For sure.
I mean, rock star for him for doing that. And I think that for all of us, we can We can be. I love the squeaker toy.
Sorry.
The dog is totally having fun with that, by the way. I love
And
that.
this damn toy he never plays with. And of course, earlier I was like, he started looking at it, and I was like, oh, he is going to pick that up and squeak it at some point.
Oh yeah, he's
during
gonna
the
be like,
recording.
"Hey, Mom, are you recording right now?" Perfect timing. I'm gonna squeak this. That's
Love it.
also a divine intervention,
And we
Right.
absolutely need to keep that in the podcast.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep, starring Connor.
Oh. But okay, tools, right? Pets, like just so many different things. There's so many things that are like that help everybody through different things. But Mike, you said that when it's an absolute crisis, you just reach out. Somebody, somewhere, something, just something. It's going to look different for everybody. We don't have the time. But we just have to be there for that person when they're in the crisis. But there's a whole nother process, like you said, Kacee, to getting to what works for you. So do you mind sharing then? So like those next steps, right? So you found someone that works for you 12 minutes away and you saw them in person. I mean, there's so many teledoc, telehealth, there's so many ways now that are there. There's access somewhere.
Right.
So can you share some of the things that like, were there, again, like I said, this is specific to you. Maybe it helps somebody else. What were the things that kind of helped you start that process to getting back and like loving yourself, finding the happiness? Like, how did you get there?
Just having the open conversation of like, hey, a lot of the stuff, this is from Michaela, my therapist, of, what you're telling me, this is classic depression.
Mm-hmm.
She felt like, and it was at the time situational, obviously, just had a little bit going on.
Yeah.
And then just anxiety. Now, whether I never dealt with anxiety, and when I say I never dealt with it, I never had issues with it, i.e., maybe I didn't recognize it in myself.
Or you lived with it.
Or I
It
lived
just
with
became
it.
a new normal, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But the big key piece, the anxiety was worse for me than the depression. I'm like an adrenaline junkie, like most of us are in this business. And so like a little bit of endorphin hits for me, like would kind of help bring my spirits up, even though it was temporarily. But the anxiety was the biggest piece and still is to this day. Identifying my triggers was like the starting point. I have 4 big ones. I call them the big 4, similar to the big 3 with head bleeds on a CT scan. But yeah, like feeling out of control. Shocker. I know, type A personality for all of us.
You don't say.
Yeah. It's funny
Never
today. We were having type A personality discussions in a safety class I was taking, and one of my coworkers was like, I'm like a B+, A- type personality on a good day. But no, so type A, so type A personality, used to being in control as far as work. That got taken away from me when the divorce happened, or when we got separated. She didn't ask my thoughts and feelings and opinions on it, so that got taken away from me. And then feeling no control over emotionally what was going on with me and mentally. It was just like every day, it's like I had feelings and emotions swirling in my head, and I was just trying to focus on one of them to grasp onto, and I couldn't. And that's what anxiety is for me. The other one was I lost my identity, completely wrapped my world around her. So when you stripped everything away, I felt like in that moment, all I had left was my career, and I felt like I couldn't do it right because of everything in my personal life was affecting me professionally. So now it's like professionally, I can't do anything right. And then obviously interactions with her. As we progressed through the separation, we became civil, and a lot of that was for my peace of mind and what I needed for me. And then the one big one I spoke about earlier was just being alone. When I went back and looked and dissected all my previous relationships, I jumped from one to the next, to the next, to the next. And I never took any time for me. And I never truly was alone. And so that was a big thing, sitting with myself, with my feelings, having to deal with them. So those were the big 4 that I had to start working on in therapy. And I'm still working on some of them and a few others that, childhood trauma that come up. But
never ending.
But it's a marathon, not a sprint. Like,
Right,
I mean, these
correct.
are things that it takes time to identify those things in yourself. It takes a lot of sessions to get to the point where you can put your finger on and say, okay, these are the things that I know are bothering me and why and how.
Yep.
And then it takes time to figure out how to gain those tools to be able to take care of those things and grow and progress forward.
Yeah.
It's not an overnight fix.
Yeah. And then like with the anxiety piece, because I felt like that was just a major piece for me. It's something that just, it was a struggle. I mean, it was a grinder dealing with it. It was every day. And I could have a phenomenal day and wake up and feel amazing. And hours later, it's just like, boom, like full blown panic attack for no reason. And so for me, taking myself out of a situation, if I'm in a situation where I can identify my triggers, removing myself was a big tool. You can't always do that, especially when you're in a helicopter soaring around at like 1,800 feet where I'm at. I can't really remove myself.
Right.
But just like calling it out, like calling it for what it is. Like, you know, it's anxiety. Like, it's here. I'm dealing with it. I recognize it in my body. It was a lot of like, I don't know if touch therapy is really the correct term, but it was a lot of like, she taught me like, where do you feel it? Do you feel it in your chest? Do you feel it in your stomach? Like, put your hands over your chest, put your hands over your stomach. Like, it's just a feeling. You're safe. You're grounded. It's just, you know, you kickstart your amygdala and then off you go. And if you can't control it, because it's like our smoke detector, right? So if you let it go, it's going to alarm. And if you don't catch it quick enough, it doesn't recognize reasoning. It recognizes reaction. So when you fly off the handle, whether you're upset, you're pissed off, angry, whatever, it's going to lean into that. And so just teaching myself how to bring myself back to the present moment and say, hey, you're safe. You're in a safe space. That was big. It took a long time, and still to this day, there's days where I struggle with it. And then there's days that works. But it's a constant practice for me. And then probably the biggest piece that daily I do is exercise. I worked out prior to us getting separated, not consistently. I've always enjoyed movement. I was an athlete growing up, played volleyball, soccer, softball, ran track, played rugby in college. So movement was a big thing for me, but it started out slow. So no energy. I remember the first day I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to do something today other than sit on this couch. I walked halfway down my block and then turned around and came back, and I was exhausted. The next day.
Hey, it was a start. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah. You make it to the next street light and then the next one. And then that led into me running. I'm a big like audiobook fan. So Jack Carr, I don't know if you know that author, but
absolutely.
I love all of his books.
You can catch him at Salt Lake City Airport every now and then. There's signed copies out there.
I know.
Just saying.
And he's got the 4th option coming out this summer, I believe.
Boom. Not sponsored, but
Carr,
hey.
Right? So that led into me running. I'd throw my headphones in, a little bit of Jack Carr, a little bit of Joe Rogan in the headphones, and I'd run on the trail near the lake. And then I had previously done months leading up to me getting separated. I had started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then when everything happened, I took a break. So I restarted that. And that was interesting because me and my best friend's husband did jiu-jitsu together at the same gym. So he left the gym when everything happened. So going back to the gym brought a lot of anxiety because I'm like, I had good memories there with him.
Right.
And now all I have is these negative emotions about him. So I kind of had to relearn how to be in that space. So that was interesting. And then I picked up, every flight provider picks up CrossFit at some point in their life, I feel like. So we'll talk about CrossFit.
Just a few podcasts recently where CrossFit may have been mentioned. I'm just surprised it took you this long.
Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 140-plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
Well, watching Aaron's, I was like, I'm not going to.
I was literally thinking it though as you were talking about exercise. I was like, I'm gonna guess there was CrossFit probably.
Yeah,
in there
CrossFit.
somewhere.
Yeah,
Yes.
I started CrossFit about a year after. Everything was like September 2024 was when I first started. So, but yeah, and then the medication. They started me on Lexapro. The Lexapro was not Lexaproing for me. So then they switched me to fluoxetine, Prozac.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Started at 20 milligrams. They titrated me up to 40. And man, that stuff was good. It was just like, I throughout that whole situation, I had a short fuse. I was so reactive to stuff. And it took that piece away from me. Like I remember the January after, like January of 2024, I got T-boned by a teenager. I was fine. She was fine. That's all that mattered. But her car was totaled. She ran a light and turned left, hit me as I was like coming through the intersection, and didn't see me. And so pre-medicated me would have been like, "Are you kidding me?" I would have checked on her first, but medicated me was like, "Hey, girl, you good? All right, it's just a car. It's fine." And I even remember sitting there waiting on the cops to get there, and I was just like, damn, I'm handling this real well. This stuff is working. But yeah, and then we talked about the whole sleep deprivation and not sleeping. They had me on trazodone. I think I got up to 100 milligrams. I was like a walking zombie on that stuff. I was on both trazodone and fluoxetine for a little over a year. And then it was a goal of mine to not be on them, with the understanding of, depending on how the journey with anxiety goes, I may end up being on something the rest of my life, and I may not be. It's a goal to not be. I'm still not on anything. Wow. I do have my moments where I'm like, maybe I might need to go back on some stuff. But yeah, so those were that, and just utilizing the FMLA and just being honest when I needed to take a time out.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the meds for a second?
Yeah, of course.
And I feel like this is something that I feel you on the Prozac, because I also took the 40. And when you said you were like, oh, all right, it's handling this pretty well. Like, I don't know how to explain like that. Like, just you're like, cool, man. Like, yeah, like you're not high, but you just feel like you're just like, oh, okay. Like
you're
I tried.
Totally, yeah.
I
Cali
described
surfer,
it as,
dude. You're like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Like I just described it because I told my wife I got off of it because it wasn't great because I didn't like that, like, because I was like $1 million cash could like fall next to me and I'd be like, oh man, somebody drop that, man, you should probably do something with that. Like it was just hard, but it's like hard to explain. And I think, for you, like part of the process, a lot of times like the medication is involved. And I think that like for me, I was the same way, like I'm going to have to be on something. But again, if it's what it takes and it's what it works, but if it's not working as well, like speak up, say something, because there are a lot of different medications out there. And I think it's amazing too. Like like you said, everybody is different. There's so many different things that work for different people. So it might be a combination of things. I feel you on the trazodone. I cut mine in half because I'm the same way. Like, it's like, I'm going to wake up like, just like, I'm not going to function. Yeah. But like,
nope. Give me the 100 milligrams.
Just be open, honest. Yeah. But like you have to find what works for you. And it doesn't, there's no end all be all. There shouldn't be a stigma, and it can be a bridge. And like you said, it's all encompassing, right? You did the exercise, you had to do these different tools, breathing exercises, throwing your headphones in. Like the medication, I think was a big point, like at least for what was told to me, was it's that jump start to help you get out of those feelings. And if anybody has that same experience, like it doesn't have to be forever, right? But just give it a shot. You can try it. You said personal decisions, what works for you. But I think that I was very skeptical until you start to kind of feel like, oh man, like this is, it's not so bad. You said you're an emotional eater. I am too. My food of choice that I abuse is pizza. So whenever I, just Domino's 5 minutes from the house, and that was it,
Yeah. And I think like I hope that with time and conversations like these that, people will view medications to help with mental health kind of like how Ozempic is like a kickstart for weight loss.
It's a tool. It's a tool in the toolbox.
Tool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And like, I kind of hope that that's the case. I mean, I know I work with a lot of people that are like, I'm never going to get on medicine. And I always said the same thing. I mean, I said the exact same thing. And I also was the same one that was like, my family, I've grown up, my parents are cops. They've, we see what nightmares are made out of. And I'm fine. I grew up in a first responder family. I've seen them go through stuff. My parents were fine. I'll be fine, and yeah, that's just not the case.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we take a lot of that stuff for granted. There's a stigma that's attached to the medication side of things, which I think a lot of people are afraid to go down that route. But I wholeheartedly agree with you guys that sometimes it's just necessary, even for just a little bit. And I think that is a there's the squeaker again.
There it is.
I think that's the important part to recognize is that it's not a forever thing. Just because you start taking it doesn't mean that that's where you're going to end up at. And you had that goal from the beginning. And I think that's what's so, important is to, okay, well, I recognize I need help to get over the hump right now. I recognize I need a little bit of assistance to like give me that jump start. But I also recognize that that's not my end game. So
I'm sorry. He's like looking back at me like, can I do it now?
Apparently your dog has something important to add to the podcast right now.
He's like, my drug of choice is squeakers.
Squeakers.
I'm going to tear these out. Love it.
You've obviously shared something so incredibly personal that you've gone through. And as I said before, I'm sure that there are plenty of people out there that are going through similar situations and don't really know what to do, where to turn to, the right questions to ask.
The right toys to squeak.
The right toys to squeak.
Can I take it away from him real quick?
Yeah.
Hang on.
I just love the random burger.
And we're back. He looks very sad.
So having gone through something so personal, and there are those other people that are out there that are probably going through something similar that you've gone through, and they don't know where to turn to. They don't know the right questions asked. They don't know what options they may have out there. What advice would you give to anyone that may be having maybe a similar experience that they're going through and feeling the way that you felt when you were at that moment, and how to potentially take that first step to deal with those stressors?
Yeah, I think the biggest piece for me is what I found through therapy was, I guess I didn't feel comfortable to talk about how I was feeling out loud with people that I knew and that I trusted. And I think had I might have, I know I probably would have never gotten to as far down the road as I got, and probably would have never ended up in that parking lot that night. But I think that's the biggest piece. It's like, it doesn't matter how far down the road you are, or even if you're just like, I feel horrible and you can't put words to it, you can't explain it, like just saying, I'm in a bad spot and I need help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and therapy's not for everybody, so maybe talking to a therapist isn't, but like talk to somebody that you love and trust, like whether it's a family member, a friend.
Absolutely.
Hell, call me. I mean, like I've been there, I've been in the trenches, and I will sit in that with you. I don't care, like it to make it to where somebody else does not have to go through this. Like I'll do whatever. And I think a lot of leaning on people that are like us, whether it's other first responders, military, we have this whole connection with Echo of all the different facets of aviation. And I think just talking to somebody that really knows what we see and do every day and just understanding the magnitude of the heaviness that this job carries can go through so much. Because I can sit down and I can tell my friend who has nothing to do with healthcare and doesn't fly, she's a banker, about my worst call. And she's just like, damn, that sucks. Yeah, so the stocks this week, like, Yeah. And no, I mean, she's phenomenal. She tries her best to understand. But yeah, no, it's just, I think it starts with talking. It starts with being honest about it. And that's probably one of the hardest things for me. It was owning my shit, honestly. And I think it starts with a conversation. I don't think it's complicated. I don't think it's a complex answer.
And I think it just needs to be 3 simple words, right? I need help.
Yep. Sounds like a good bracelet for Philly's conference.
Maybe we'll see. Maybe,
hey, fast team.
Hey, put on fast. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, but and that's where that's where it comes on us as somebody who may be sitting there, that somebody comes to us and says, I need help, that we need to recognize that, and we need to not just brush it off, and we need to be that rock for somebody when they need it. And I hope that having this conversation today has really sparked some of that desire and passion and drive in all of us to be able to be that for somebody else, or maybe even just a little, hey, you know what, someone hasn't quite been acting themselves lately, maybe I should check in on them.
Right.
Yeah.
Just something as simple as that.
Yeah, I think that's big.
We've done these podcasts, quite a few, that it always ties back to something that has to, where mental health plays a big part in something, in some aspect, in some way, right? So I think for all of us, we're so regimented. Like our whole life in this type of profession is based off of readiness and
mission ready.
And you talked about when your therapist was saying the touch, like, do you feel it here or do you feel it here? Like, I don't know if people realize the effects of that, we're choosing a profession and a job that is we're building terrible habits for our bodies. We really are, but someone's got to do it, right? Like, someone's got to put out that fire. Someone's got to get that patient to where they need to go. Like, someone needs to be, like, we all need somebody, right? But when you were talking about, like, do you feel it here or there? Like, there's so many aspects of what our brain is doing, and it affects so many parts of our body at the same time.
Yeah.
And then it just carries right over into our day to day, and we get so numb to that. Anxious feeling just becomes part of everyday life. And then you don't realize that you're like, oh man, I was thinking about this. And then did I just do my walk around? Like, did I bring my helmet? Like, I'm just saying, I've walked out to the aircraft and they're like, oh, you forgetting something? And you're like,
yeah, your head's not in the game.
It's like, and Mike, how many times have on all these episodes that we've had that there's some point and there's something that ties back to the mental health and resilience. And I think we've done a good job of recognizing that we need help or we need something, but now, like, it's going to be continued work, and it always will be long after any of us are here. Continued work to constantly improve and be better for each other and make sure that we all can make it home. And we're all going to go through personal aspects, but man, we can just be that 3 a.m. friend, for somebody.
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
And I think that we really need that too. I think that, these experiences that we go through, they're not easy. And I think the first and foremost part of this is just having that self-awareness. And then I think the second piece is making sure that we say those 3 little words, right? I need help. Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad that you did. And through this experience that you went through, it sounds like you have learned an immense amount about yourself and have been able to kind of gain some true mental clarity and awareness that has helped you form your now wellness in this journey. Can you talk a little bit about that and what your experience has been and maybe some of that mental clarity that you've gained along the way?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, like prioritizing my mental health was not an option anymore. It's a tool to make me a better human, which makes me a better daughter, sister, uh, healthcare provider, and it's makes you fit for duty, right? It's
Mhm.
just kind of ties back to the basic piece of what we do. Um, but yeah, it just the self-awareness, the glaring self-awareness that I have developed, it's it's crazy because if you would have asked me 2 or 3 months into the separation, if I would think look back and think about the situation then as I do now, I would not have believed you. Like, back then, of course, anger, upset, you're in the depths of everything and all your emotions are heightened. Um, you know, how dare she? How could he do this to me? Like, that was my best friend. That was like all the normal stuff that would probably
Right.
circulate through your head.
Right.
But, like, I think one key piece outside of prioritizing my mental health, but, like, one thing that's allowed me to put closure to the situation was just while she made the choices that she made, going through therapy allowed me to recognize the things that I was doing or wasn't doing in our marriage that
Mm.
played a part in why she made the decisions.
Sure.
Like, and I think to now look back and know the piece that I played that it allowed me to just bring closure to it, for me, in my heart and my soul. But, the other side is it allowed me to reconnect with some family members that like, my younger sister, we're 6 years apart, she's a paramedic. So, she's new into the field as far as a paramedic. She's been an EMT since she was 18. She's 26 now, but she's been a paramedic 3 or 4 years. Sorry, Sumner, don't kill me. I can't remember when you became a paramedic. She'll listen to this. But no, it's just like she came out of nowhere. Like, her and I talked, it just wasn't a whole lot. And we reconnected. Of course, my mom told her what was happening. She called me and was like, "What's up, sis? What you need?" And so she's like my best friend, but it's allowed me to kind of mentor her being in this industry. She calls me, not all the time, but like she'll call me and be like, "I had a rough call. Like, can we talk?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or hey, like she
Awesome.
recently got promoted to lieutenant, and so she's called me recently.
Yeah.
Stress. I don't have experience in leadership formally, but I'm like, it's fine, girl. Like, you do the best you can. Put your best foot forward. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. Like, don't let that bother you. You know. So it's allowed me like to be there for her in a way that I just never imagined of being able to be there. So just so much good has come out of it. Not that I would want to do it again, but
Right.
if I had to be this version of me, not just for myself, but for everybody in my life, I would do it over again.
That's
Damn.
awesome. That's wow.
That's big.
That's deep. That is really deep.
That is.
But amazing. I mean, your journey has been obviously a very challenging one, but to see where you're at now and to be able to talk about how far you've come and also know that you're still on the road, you're still on that path, you're still striving every single day to be that better version of yourself, and to be that better version for not just yourself, but your friends, your family, and your loved ones.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, please go ahead.
Healing is not linear.
No.
It's a roller coaster.
It absolutely
and like
is.
it's peaks and valleys, and I will have a stretch of days or even weeks where I'm like riding high, and then for no reason or for a reason, boom, I'm back in a valley. And now I have the tools in place to help bring me out of that. But it still happens. I mean, it's a constant struggle. Even though situationally, that's what kickstarted everything for me. And I think like for me, the things that happen to us, like what other people do to us or our traumas, like we're not to blame, but we're responsible for our healing from it, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's another piece. Like you have
I love that.
you have to own your healing.
Mhm.
You don't have to say like, oh, it's my fault that happened to me,
Right.
whatever. But own your healing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Damn. I kind of have a last question for you, Kacee, and if you're willing to share. You had mentioned earlier when you're doing the therapy, and I think you said the therapist asked like, like, how do you feel when you're by yourself? Like, how do you see yourself, and how do you feel? How do you feel now when you're by yourself in your thoughts? And it's just like, I don't know why our brains are like, hey, it's ready for bed. And it's like, oh, you know what? I should think about everything else in life when I'm trying to go to sleep. Right. That's when it happens. Right. But that's like the most like self-realization of like the thing, at least, you know, for a lot of people that, you know, I talk to, like, how do you feel about yourself when you lay your head down at night and going through this process now? How do you feel now versus when it was happening initially?
Now, damn girl, I'm proud of you. We
Yeah.
still got more work to do, but damn, I'm proud of you.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
And I will say, I know you guys are wrapping up, but with us, you know, hopefully impacting at least just one person, everybody that's listening, please hear this. Like, if you find yourself in any dark headspace, like when going through the next hour feels heavier than the job that we do itself, like, call somebody. Call me. If you want to put my contact information in the show notes, I will give it. You guys have it, so that's fine. I don't care what you've done. I don't care what you're facing or how far gone you think you are. Like, just pick up the phone and call somebody. You matter. This world is better with you in it, and you deserve to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter where you get your help as long as you get help, and whether that's peer support, whether that's calling a good friend, whether that's therapy, whether that's a suicide hotline, whatever it may be, please get that help, because whoever you are way too important.
Yes.
So,
absolutely.
Kacee, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I think it's such a profound message and such an important one. And I truly am grateful that you were willing to be vulnerable and that you were willing to share your journey with us, because I guarantee you are not alone.
No.
And I think that I know that there is someone that is struggling with some of the very same feelings. And I hope that this can help at least just one person. And so I'm so incredibly grateful for you to share this with us. This is a truly impactful podcast that, this recording that we had with you. And one of the many reasons that this needed to be on a global level, because we can't talk about this enough, to be able to help continue to push each other forward on this journey. And just thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. I had so much fun, even though it's my first podcast. I was nervous. I was like, yes.
Don't worry, mine too.
Oh, man. Well, thank you again. This has been awesome. For our listeners out there, thank you for your continued support and of both the Valor Flight Crew podcast and the Vertical Helicast platform. If you aren't already listening, make sure you head on over to the verticalhelicast.com platform. You can check out the Hangar Z podcast, Real Rescue podcast, Helicopter podcast, Vertical MRO podcast for some other amazing discussions out there. Until next time, be safe, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Valor Flight Crew podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message from our sponsors.
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support. Thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, save lives, and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information.
Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services. With 140-plus aircraft, in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
As we bring this episode in for landing, we want to thank Kacee for the courage it took to share a story that so many in our community live quietly every day. Conversations like this remind us that behind every flight suit, every stethoscope, and every helmet is a human being carrying experiences that don't clock out at the end of the shift. Mental health, PTSD, and the weight of this profession are real, and talking about them openly is how we begin to change the culture around them. If something in this episode resonated with you, we encourage you to reach out to a peer, to a professional, to someone you trust. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength, self-awareness, and commitment to staying in this fight for the long haul. Thank you for being part of this community, for supporting one another, and for helping us continue to bring these important conversations to light. Take a moment this week to reach out to someone you care about. You never know the impact you may have. Thanks for tuning in to the Valor Flight Crew podcast, and we'll see you next week with more stories that promote the personnel and life-saving equipment behind helicopter air ambulance services.